Hi, it's Alaska Granny. We know that long-term food storage is important. We want to be sure that we always have enough food to feed our family. Especially during these times we've had in 2020, we've had a pandemic, we've had food shortages, we've had economic slowdowns, businesses have been shuttered, and it's been absolutely chaotic. Early in 2020, people were rushing to the stores, clearing the shelves in a panic, and many people were either afraid to go out or they were worried they couldn't get the foods that they actually wanted. Brigham Young University, or BYU, which is the university for the Mormon Church, has put out guidelines for long-term food storage, a simple approach to how much food you could have in your long-term food storage stockpile, that you would have enough food on hand in these number 10 cans that would last you for an entire year. Many people know that the Mormon or LDS Church is big on food storage. And one of the nice things is anyone can order foods from their church online and have long-term food storage, foods that are packaged to already last for 30 years. If you're not sure how you're going to rotate things like beans and rice, one of the ways to make sure that you have food for long-term emergencies is to go ahead and order them in the number 10 cans from the LDS Church. Then you don't have to go to the store, try to find rice and beans, bring them home, try to figure out how to store them. You need buckets and Mylar bags or canning jars, oxygen absorbers, food saver vacuum machines. Then you don't have to worry about having all the extra apparatuses that you would need to store the food, and you don't have to worry about, did I do it correctly? Do I need to rotate the food? First, make sure you've stockpiled your pantry and that you have lots of canned and packaged foods, that you could make meals out of your pantry for weeks, if not even a few months. Then you want to build your long-term food storage stockpile. An easy way to do it is to order these number 10 cans of dried and packaged foods that come in a box that holds 6 of the cans for a very reasonable price. So when you go online and you look at something like Augustin Farms or Mountain House, you're usually only getting 1 can. But when you order foods from the LDS or the Mormon Church, you're getting 6 cans because they come in a big old box. There's 6 cans of the same food in the package. Think about it. You could order these foods, put them away, and then you don't even have to use them or rotate them. They're still going to be okay for 30 years. We want to know that we can use it, but it's interesting that they have a plan. You could order this certain set of foods and they will tell you that this has enough calories and protein to last for an entire year. What's the basic food supply plan that they have recommended for their church members? The first item is wheat. They recommend 132 pounds of wheat or 24 cans, 65 pounds of rice or 12 cans, 29 pounds of oats or 12 cans, 21 pounds of pasta or 6 cans. Those are the suggestions for the wheats and grains. Now you need to look at that first of all and ask yourself, could I possibly want to bake bread every single day? And if you buy the cans that are wheat, you need to have a very heavy-duty grinder so that you can grind up the wheat kernels. You grind them up, turn them into flour, and then you can use them to bake bread. I personally don't want anything to do with that, so the first item is not an option for me. I have also been able to order flour from the Mormon Church. It isn't on this list because they would prefer that you order the wheat. You can also cook it like you would oatmeal and serve it for breakfast, or you can sprout some of it to make greens. That's just not something that I want to do. So before you just take somebody's plan and just go down the checklist and buy what they say, make sure they're foods that you are willing to eat. And if not, then figure out how you can still have the same amount of food in a format and food that you are willing to eat. The next category is legumes, which are beans. They recommend 62 pounds of legumes or 12 cans. 62 pounds of beans, that doesn't seem so bad. Lots of times I go to the store and I buy big old bags of them and bring them home and put them in a 5-gallon bucket. That's a great way to do it, and I probably have more than their recommendation because I'm comfortable using those. The next item, which is powdered milk, actually only has a 15-year shelf life, so you would need to rotate it and replace it. They recommend 49 pounds of powdered milk or 12 cans, which is about 1 can per month. 70 pounds of sugar or 12 cans. I don't do a lot of baking, and I did order sugar. If you don't do a lot of baking, try to figure out how much you actually do use. With fruits and vegetables, they recommend 6 pounds of dried apples, which are 6 cans, 22 pounds of potato flakes, which are 12 cans, 8 pounds of carrots, which are 3 cans, and 2 pounds of onions, which would be 1 can. I definitely use far more fruits and vegetables than this and a much bigger variety. I would need way more onions and way fewer carrots and lots more varieties of fruits. And that's where you can make it your own. I've ordered other kinds of fruits and vegetables from places like Augustin Farms. You just need to look. They have everything from dried bananas to berries to stew mixes, peas, corn. There are many varieties. So if that's something that you enjoy eating and you want to continue to have it, you might want to add to this stockpile with those items rather than just this list. Next, you should have 8 pounds of salt, 1 pound of baking soda, 4 pounds of baking powder. That would be if you're going to be baking all that bread. But realistically, if you're not going to be baking all that bread, maybe you want to have more beans and rice, more oatmeal. Figure out the foods that you know how to cook that you're willing to have and have a supply of those things instead. A great suggestion is 365 vitamin C tablets at 90 milligrams because vitamin C is a very important nutrient to have in your body. Your body can't store vitamin C. If you think back to the sailors that sailed around the world and the explorers, they ended up getting things like scurvy because they couldn't get any fresh fruits and vegetables. They were depleted of vitamin C and it had very negative health consequences. Make sure you have a source of vitamin C for yourself and your family. If you follow that plan and you stockpile that list of food, you will have enough calories and protein for one person for an entire year. But it's going to require you to eat foods that perhaps you're not familiar with, you're not really sure how to prepare. Figure out how to have the same quantity of food with choices that you're willing to eat. Their suggestions, if you want to make this food even better, is to add 2 gallons of cooking oil, 6 pounds of butter, which you can store in the freezer. I've also found butter powder by Augustin Farms, and that's the format that I choose to store it. I also have jars of ghee, which is clarified butter, 3 quarts of mayonnaise, 6 pounds of peanut butter. You can find peanut butter powder, which is very tasty. I've had jars of peanut butter go rancid before I even opened them. Many foods will last past their best by use by sell by date, but not always. So don't make it a plan to just set foods aside forever thinking that they'll last no matter what, because that's a foolish mistake. Canned foods just won't last as long, but they're also great to have on hand because you can open and eat them, and you can rotate them within a few years, then they're going to be okay. They recommend 3 number 10 cans of fruit drink powder. If you're looking at the powdered drinks, consider something like Tang, which actually has vitamin C, whereas a lot of them are just sugary flavored drinks. While this is a great list of foods to stockpile so you have enough food for an entire year that you can set aside for 30 years, you don't even have to rotate it if you don't want to, but think about it. If you actually come a day that you need to eat it, you may want to fine-tune and tweak this so that it meets your needs, so that you have foods you want to eat. In an emergency, you're not stuck with buckets and cans that you have no idea what to do with. Always want to make sure that you're storing foods that you know what they are, you're willing to eat, and you know how to prepare them. That's how you have success with long-term food storage. So check over this list, see if there's suggestions on here that help meet your needs, your requirements, and help fill in gaps in your long-term food storage. What's most important is that we have a stockpile of food so we can feed our family no matter what the day brings. If you liked my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else who might enjoy it. Learn more at alaskagranny.com, and please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.